Demanded a SX-filled reunion with my wife in our own home, leaving my pushy mom in tears and text fury. I, 21 male, have been deployed for the past 10 months and I will be getting home in 1 week. My wife and I's plan was for her to be the only one to know what date I was coming back, so that when I get leave we can go back and surprise all of our family and friends. My wife, 21F, visited home a couple weeks ago for a family event, and while she was there she spent a day with my mom and younger sister, HSH. My mother is very pushy and hates surprises. So much so that me surprising her by coming home would make her mad at me. My wife and I knew we would eventually have to tell her because of this, but we're waiting until the last minute because she would have told my sisters if she knew my date. Well, while my wife was there, my mom pushed and pushed, telling her that she wouldn't speak to her, let the girls go places, and she had to know so she could take days off work. My wife gave her a week range of my leave, a couple weeks after I get back, so that she could request off. Well, my mom texted me today telling me that she would be here for the welcome home when our plane lands. I asked if she cleared this with my wife, seeing as she apparently planned to stay with us in our 1-bedroom apartment, and she said no. I asked if the girls knew and were coming, and she said no. My mom has done a few things that presses between my wife and I, so I lost it on her. Told her I wouldn't be giving her the date that I fly in, that if I wanted her there I would want my sisters there as well. I stopped there until she started complaining that she was a single mom who raised me on her own, and that I should want to see her first. That's when I told her I didn't want her in my house at all when I first get home. I am a married, grown man now, I don't need my mom, I want to see and spend time with my wife first and foremost. She pressed further saying I've been here for you since before you were born, she's been here for 4 years. Eventually trash talking my wife, saying she doesn't even have a real job and doesn't contribute. My wife is a nanny while she is in school, and she gets paid well, so she absolutely does contribute more than enough. This is where I may be the asshole. I told my mom that I was tired of her badgering, that I wanted to come home to my wife and be alone in our home with our pets. My wife and I would not want to host her, and we wanted the house to ourselves so that we can have sex wherever and whenever we please because we haven't seen each other in so long. My mom cried. She's sending me long paragraph texts every few hours about how she doesn't know where her caring son went, about how I need to let my wife go because I use her for her body, about how all I care about is my own pleasure, and I have no care for my family at all. So Reddit, Ida? I haven't responded to the messages my mother is sending, but if I get ideas from the possible comments, I might update one. A few people asked to stay updated, so here is the first one. Spoiler alert, it's not necessarily a fun one. Unfortunately, because of another wife sharing our flight date all over Facebook, our return has been pushed back an entire month. I called my wife to let her know, and we are both devastated. I only had enough time for one phone call, so I asked my wife to let family and friends know, including my mother. Yes, I know many people might not be happy about that, but again, she didn't receive a date. My wife's text to her was just that I would not be returning until a month later, or more. My mother's reaction to that news has truly solidified what many comments were telling me. I was raised by a narcissist. Her text back to my wife was, "Oh, that's great. That is actually is much better timing for me." My wife's response to my mother was, "Do not say that to my name. He is devastated that he will be gone longer, and he has been talking about wanting to be home ASAP since just a few months in. I wish you wouldn't have even said it to me, as I'm devastated by his return being delayed as well. It is extremely selfish for you to be glad he is away from home for even longer simply because it works better for you. I have never in my life heard of a mother being glad that her child will be overseas longer than what was planned." After that, she blocked my mom. Her shiny spine is really developing. I have not reached out to my mother, and I will not be doing so. I won't block her, as with my sisters being minors, I would like for one of us, my wife or I, to have at least some line of communication in case of some family emergency. However, I will not be texting or calling, and any of her texts or calls will not be answered unless I consider them an emergency. There were a few questions and deeper explanations from my original post, so I figured I would go into them deeper here. My father passed away when I was 6. Ever since then, my mom has sort of relied on me when it came to raising my sisters. Even with them being high school aged, it continued. When I went into the military, my mom got upset, saying things at home would be just terrible with me gone, that she didn't know how she would handle my sisters on her own, and that life would seem more pointless without her son in it every single day. When my wife and I got married and moved to my first duty station, she begged to trade my sisters off, sending one of them to stay with us every few weeks, where they would stay in our living room. She even told us we would need to purchase a hide-to-bed couch for it to work out. Obviously, that had never happened as I told her my sisters were my sisters, and her kids. It was not my responsibility to raise them. My mom and I were very close when I was growing up. I considered her one of my best friends, and someone I could always go to. That changed when I got married. I also realized that some of the things she did were not healthy or good parenting moments. My mom started purchasing condoms for me when I was only 12. She was very open about sex with me, and was not one to shy away from it. She was completely fine with me having sex at such a young age, which did lead me to being a bit of a man whore. Before my wife, I constantly snuck girls in and snuck out to hang out with girls, and whatever else. My wife was the first girl that I brought to my house during the day, introduced to my family, invited her for dinner. My wife was also very strict with her views on sex when we started dating. We were friends before, so she knew I was a bit of a player. Where I viewed sex as something fun, she viewed it as something that should only be between two people who truly love each other. She was not down for it until a few months into us dating, and I was willing to wait for her. We still snuck around, but when she snuck me in, we quite literally played Mario Kart, watched movies, and hung out all night. When this part of me changed, it changed something about my mom for some reason. She did used to ask about girls I was sleeping with when I was in high school, but when she asked about my wife when we started dating, and I told her we weren't doing anything like that, she got frustrated about me lying. She stopped buying me condoms, which I was fine with because I didn't need them in the beginning, and when I did, I was 18 and completely fine buying them myself. Before my wife and I ever did have sex, she would come in my room and scream about how she didn't want me having sex under her roof. I thought that she just realized that encouraging a minor to have sex wasn't okay. My mom also liked my wife when she was just my girlfriend. This always confused me until I read people's comments. Her going from loving her, inviting her to everything, asking where she was when she wasn't with me, to trash talking her didn't make sense to me until people in the comments of my last post clarified that it was the fact that she was my wife. Her being permanent is what my mother doesn't like. And as far as cock blocking, my mom has happily done that since we've been married. She screeched and hid her face when I kissed my wife at our wedding. She begged us to sleep on a pallet in her living room on our wedding night. We didn't. She tried calling 3 times a day when we first moved, once around the time I usually got off work, once either during or after dinner, and once at night. Sometimes while my wife were mid-tango, sometimes when we were already asleep. It was very rare that I actually answered these calls, and when she realized her calls were muted they faded away. She FaceTimed seemingly once an hour on our first wedding anniversary. Again, I didn't answer. Her wanting us to host her when I first got back was not her being clueless. She knew what she was trying to do. Now that I have a new return date, my mother will not even know the possible weeks I might have leave. She won't need to. I do not plan on seeing her outside of maybe going out to eat with her, my wife, and the rest of my family. My wife will be organizing it, and will be able to ask my sisters about days my mother is off work. That's all I have as far as an update right now. I may post more before returning just based on how things go. I can imagine I will have plenty of an update when I do actually return. Update 2. Hello everyone. I am now officially home, and have been for the past week. I've stayed off social media, for the most part, as I've been spending time with my wife and seeing friends who also just returned from a desperate deployment. Being home with my family has been absolutely great. The morning I was meant to leave, my wife and I both agreed that we were going to block my mom until agreeing otherwise. That way, when communicating about flights, layovers, and landing times, nothing would be interrupted when time was running out, and we could enjoy this time without another worry. Unfortunately, storms delayed our landing and our welcome home ceremony was pushed all the way back to 11 p.m. However, that didn't ruin the night. My wife got to the ceremony, looked beautiful, helped me grab most of my things, and we went home. We were able to enjoy our night. She had several cute decorations, welcome home banners, gifts, and she even made a steak and potatoes dinner which we ate at midnight. So far, our time together has been amazing. And last night, my wife and I talked, and we decided that I would unblock my mom for now, but continue with not communicating outside of emergencies. Now, here is the update on details with my mother. Some of this stuff happened before my return, and some just now. I thought it would be better to just lump them together for those who are only here for the drama read. When I found out the exact day I would return home, I called my wife and let her know. She asked me if I had let anyone in my family know anything, or if I was keeping it to myself. As far as the date of me being back in our hometown, I decided to no longer keep it a surprise. I will be home for a while before actually returning there, and my wife and I don't want to try to hide the fact that I'm there or pretend I'm still gone or anything. So, I said to my wife that I was going to talk to my family and let them know. However, my plan wasn't to let my family know what day I landed. I told them that I would be home on the date that I got leave to go see people. The day I was getting home, my wife posted a picture on her private story around noon. It showed the welcome home banner, and our 2 dogs sitting in front of it, and the caption said, "We're so ready." My sisters are on this private story, but she didn't think to take them off because she thought that I told them I would be flying in on that day. That's my bad, as I didn't specify and just told my wife I'd let them know when I would be home. So, while my mom was at work, my sisters FaceTimed my wife and asked about it. My wife explained that and they explained that I told them a different date, to which she said, "Oh, he must have been talking about the date he gets to come see everyone there." They all laughed it off, and then moved on and talked about different stuff for another hour, until my sisters told her my mom was home and that they were going to go. 30 minutes later, my wife got another call from my sister, but when she answered it, it was my mom. My mom said, "Wait, is he getting home today?" And my wife said yes. My mom snapped back with, "Well, that would have been nice to know." And my wife, trying to keep the peace, told her, "I'm sorry, he told me that he already talked to you guys about it, but when he did he was talking about when we would be able to travel back and see everyone." My mom told her, "Well, For some reason he doesn't understand that we can go places too and we could travel too. To which my wife said if you guys would like to come here before he gets leave to see him, that is something I would be all for if you want to talk to him about it. The best time to do that would be in 2 weeks, when he has a 4-day weekend. Other than that, I'm not sure what days he is off. My mom said I don't care about what days he is off. We could have been there to see him fly in or even just see him after work. My wife replied, well, I know that or the first week at least, they have told people it's not a good idea to invite guests. They try to keep reintegration between home families at first. I know when my cousin came back from deployment, they weren't even letting outside family on base for the welcome home ceremony. After that call, my wife texted the conversation to me. I finally decided to open my mom's texts. Just to take a peek. It was nonsense about how they should be here. I took this opportunity away from them, blah blah blah. I gave a response finally. I told her, I gave you the dates for when I would see you. I gave you the date for when I would be back in our hometown, and that is the date I would like to see people. If I wanted you to be at my welcome home ceremony, and if I wanted you to visit in the time between when I land and when I get leave, I would have invited you. After that text, I blocked my mom, and that is when my wife and I agreed to both have you blocked. Today, when I unblocked her, my plan was to speak with her about planning a dinner when we get back. That way, I could be with the entire family at once. I would up vetoing the conversation when I opened texts from every single day, about how I stripped her golden moment of getting to be the one welcoming her son back. So, these dinner plans will be discussed with my sisters, grandparents, and won't be involving my mother. That's all she wrote on this story. I'm sure I'll have other things to say about my mother somewhere on here in the future, but this is officially the final update on this. 1. Thanks to all the comments and people who reached out. It's crazy how many people have engaged with this story, and the fact that it's been read on YouTube channels is mind-boggling. I have greatly appreciated all of the conversations my posts have sparked up. Update 3. My first post outside of the many mom updates from a previous one, and of course it's here. I got home from deployment about a month ago. My leave just now started, and while we waited for my leave, we came to a decision that we likely wouldn't be seeing my mother as much while we were visiting home because of things she pulled during the process of me getting home. We drove through the night. Oftentimes we choose to do so because it's a 13-hour drive, and driving through the night means our 2 dogs will sleep and we don't have to make as many stops. We pulled into my in-laws' house around 6 a.m. They live on a farm with other large dogs, so we fed our dogs, let them out to play for the morning, and went inside to get a little sleep before the rest of the day. When we woke up around 11, my wife's family had a few small things planned for us to do, then we planned to see friends. Mind you, my leave is 3 weeks long, so we have plenty of time to see everyone and do everything. While we were getting ready to leave, I got a call from my mother. I decided to answer it, despite low contact, because I figured it would be her asking when we would see my family. Instead, it was her telling me she was suicidal. After everything, I do still love my mother. I do still care, but I don't want to let her manipulate me. I panicked, but I didn't want to make a big deal, so I gave her my best advice and went back into the spare room with my wife. I talked to my wife about the call, and she asked if we needed to go ahead and go there instead. I told my wife no, and that it was okay and we would see them the following day for my grandma's birthday. Then I got 3 more calls from my sisters and grandma, asking if I had spoken to my mom yet. My wife suggested I call one of them back, or call my mom, and just make sure someone is home with her. And if they weren't, then we could stop by and make sure everything is okay. I called my mom and asked if she was okay. I got an answer as if nothing was ever wrong. I asked if we needed to come there or if she was with people. She said everyone was home with her, and that we didn't have to come there if we didn't want to. Especially because we are busy seeing everyone else first. I was confused and she told me she was completely okay. I lost it. I shouted at her for telling me she would kill herself and then telling me everything was completely fine. I asked what made her feel that way, and she told me it was because everyone is more important than her. I didn't know what to say. I just hung up. We left and did all of our plans with everyone else. We are now taking my grandma out to lunch today, so that my wife and I can see her for her birthday. But we decided it was best we didn't hang with my mom if she was going to pull this stuff as soon as we woke up after getting here. Update 4. I have a very strained relationship with my mother. Almost a year ago, I made a few posts about her, and the whole realization of things unraveled. Write on Reddit if anyone's interested in reading those. But the long story short is enmeshment. About a year ago, I decided to go no contact with my mother because of a stunt she pulled. Between then and now, my mother has tried to contact us through social media, by using my grandma's phone, and my younger sister's phones, but when we find out it is her, if we don't know right off the bat, we simply stop the conversation there. After a while, things were peaceful. Last month, I found out I will need surgery on my knee. Nothing serious, just a quick repair from an injury. My mother found this out because I told my grandma, and she pressured her into talking about it. My surgery date is coming up at the beginning of May, and I will have a bit of time off before then to visit family and friends because I will not be able to travel during my recovery. My wife and I talked about it, and we decided that things have been peaceful long enough that it may be worth trying again with my mother. So, we unblocked her, and I let her know that at the end of April, we would be there to visit for a week. I let her know this 2 weeks ago, and things have been smooth sailing since then, until today. My mother asked if she could call me to talk about my upcoming visit yesterday. I told her that would be fine, and the first thing she asked about was if I would be staying at her house for the week that we're there. I told her that we could probably stay for a night or two, but that we would again be traveling with our dogs, and she doesn't have the space to accommodate them for an entire week, and I also said that my wife and I didn't want to cram together on a small couch to sleep for the week. So, she asked if my wife could stay at Mill's house with the dogs, and I could stay at hers. I told her that I would be staying with my wife, and reiterated that we would be willing to stay at hers house for a night or two. Eventually, she said fine, and the call was over. She started texting me more, and I told her that I would prefer our contact remain low right now, considering we are coming off of no contact. She agreed and didn't message me for the rest of the day. This morning, while I was at work, she called me. I had a bit of free time, so I answered and let her know I wouldn't be able to talk for long. She proposed to me that she come stay at our place the week of my surgery to help take care of me. I told her that I appreciated the offer, but that my wife would have it covered. I reminded her that we have one bedroom, and that I would prefer to be left alone as much as possible while I recover. I had to go, so nothing more was said, but when I got off work, I saw that I had 17 unread text messages. 16 from my mother and 1 from my wife. To preface, the message from my wife said, "Oh Lord, she's on one." The messages to me started with her talking about how she's more than happy to stay on the couch, or even book a hotel for the week, and come to our apartment before I woke up and after I went to sleep. At that point she began messaging these plans to my wife, but told my wife that I had already agreed to those plans. My wife simply responded, "I haven't heard from him, so I'll talk to him when he's home." She then went back to messaging me, and told me that my wife said she would prefer my mother's help in taking care of me. Then she texted my wife that I said I preferred she took care of me. The messages to me then changed to saying that my wife actually wanted to go home during this time to visit friends, so her coming to take care of me while my wife already planned to be gone would work perfectly. And her messages to my wife said that I wanted only my mother to take care of me, and that I thought my wife should have fun and see friends back home. My wife responded with, "I don't think that's true." And then she re-blocked my mother. I told my mother that I wasn't going to offer another chance. That she was already blocked on my wife's phone, and that if she messaged me about this again that she would be blocked on mine again as well, and that when I visit home, she is not someone I will be seeing. I only got around to sending that message an hour ago, after dealing with heavy storms, so I guess we will see what comes of it. And trust me, I know that the right answer might be to not give another chance and block her now. But I'm truly interested in seeing if my mother has started to understand things a bit better. I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt by thinking that after being blocked for so long, she's just overly excited, and maybe that's silly of me, but I guess we will see what tomorrow brings. Update 5. So, after sending my message about boundaries and reblocking, I tried my best to refocus on prepping for surgery, work, and enjoying peace with my wife. It was a solid plan for about 36 hours. And then the circus came to town again, courtesy of my loving mother. I woke up to a barrage of notifications that my grandma's Facebook account had been hacked, or so I thought. She's in her 70s, lives for cat memes, and thinks logging in means using the same password she's had since 2003, so her getting hacked seemed par for the course. Except, instead of tagged minions or share if you love your grandson posts, there was a rambling status from grandma about the pain of mothers watching their sons choose outsiders over family. The post was suspiciously specific about knee surgery, military kids, and weak-willed women preventing healing. My friends and even a few old teachers who still have me friended commented praying for you, but the best part? Grandma then tagged my mom, who responded in the comments with a long thank you and some very pointed shade about certain daughters-in-law who never learned Southern hospitality. I didn't even have time to let the cringe settle before my actual grandma called me, frantic. Turns out my mother had dictated most of this and logged into her account because grandma doesn't know how to get her story out there and I'm just so alone. Grandma was mortified. "Honey, I never told anybody you were getting a new knee," and deleted the post when I explained what happened. She actually apologized to my wife, bonus grandma points, and then said, "I'd give your mother a piece of my mind if she wasn't already 2 pieces short of a whole one." Legendary. But the social media shenanigans didn't end there. About an hour later, my wife got a message request on Instagram. This time, it was from a new account that was, no joke, named The Good Daughter. The bio just said mothers before others. She sent a single, cryptic DM, "He will need me when he wakes up in pain. Don't keep him in misery out of pride. Be the bigger woman. Family first." She also sent the same message, verbatim, to 2 of my old high school exes, one of whom immediately screenshotted and texted, "Do I need a restraining order?" By this point, my wife and I were laughing so hard it felt like an ab workout, which I appreciated, considering my knees vacation from squats. Our dog picked up on the energy and started running circles, which made us laugh more. It was ridiculous, but it also highlighted how much this kind of intrusion makes our partnership unshakable. We deleted, blocked, ignored. But I did have to check my work email after a notification lit up, and, yep, you guessed it, an email had come through from my mom. The subject was literally a mother's plea, and she had crafted a bizarre 6-page letter about restoring the nuclear nest and opening the gates to healing. She also included a schedule of when she would be available for bedside caretaking and, not to be outdone, had already made a lasagna and sent it via UPS with overnight shipping. I found the tracking number in the PS. Refrigerate immediately. Cheese is love, microwaves are wounds. I honestly had no idea what her endgame was at this point, and my wife, who is the patron saint of patience, suggested we sit down and have a serious, full-stop family talk with my sisters and my grandma. So, we group FaceTimed, minus mother, and my sisters, glorious loose cannon teenagers, had already made a meme page roasting my mom's FB grandma soap opera. They assured me that anything my mother tried to recruit them for would be met with "miss me with that energy." Here's where things got complicated, though. Apparently at school, my sisters had both been called in to the guidance counselor after my mom called and left a loudly weeping message saying she was worried they'd be lost in the tumult. The counselor was deeply confused and told my sisters, "I think your mother just wants the family together for Easter?" My youngest sister just said, "No, she just needs a hobby and a nap." Queens, both of them. I had another chat with my grandma, who admitted she's honestly considering moving in with my uncle in Arizona because, in her words, "your mama is making the mailman concerned." Apparently, she slipped him a letter with a Bible verse and her phone number in case he needed prayer for wayward sons. You can't make this stuff up. At this point, it seems the entire extended family is reaching their breaking point, too. So, where does that put me? As of writing this, my wife and I are still maintaining boundaries. My mother is blocked on everything. The lasagna is sitting outside in the mailroom. I'm considering forwarding it to a food lab just to be sure, but my wife thinks that's dramatic. I think it's prudent. We're prepping for surgery, focusing on us, and have looped in friends who will help while I recover. My dad's old friend even texted to offer to stand guard against my mother with a water pistol if needed, not sure if he's kidding. But most unexpectedly, my middle sister, quiet, nerdy, and a notorious introvert, sent a text tonight: "If mom tries to come to your place or mine, I'm reporting her for trespassing. Love you. Don't let her make this about her knee." A typo, but I think she meant your knee. Still funny, and honestly, that's where we are. There's so much more nuclear family energy circling the drain that I half expect my mother to hire a skyrider for my surgery date at this point. But for now, it's just us, our dogs, and a lasagna of dubious origin. Update 6. I almost wish I could start this update with, "Nothing new, all's uneventful," but as you know, chaos loves my mother the way cats love a sunny windowsill, obsessively, and with claws out. So, here it is. Buckle up, because the last 10 days have been a masterclass in maternal dramatics, crowdsourced family interventions, unexpected allies, surprise cameos, and, believe it or not, actual progress, sort of, maybe. Stay tuned. Let's set the scene. 2 days before my knee surgery, I started getting mysterious phone calls from local numbers that I didn't recognize. All went to voicemail. Each message was a new character in my mother's ever-expanding soap opera, the concerned neighbor. Pastor Bill, our actual pastor from 4th grade, who lives 3 states away, and, no joke, Stephanie at Home Care Angels. All of them wanted to assure me that they stand ready to assist in any way during my post-surgical convalescence. It was, well, impressive? Terrifying? Apparently, my mother had put out a call to action post on some community Facebook page, with my first name and apartment building, but not the unit, thank God, asking for volunteers to bless my son with support and a hot meal, as he navigates his medical journey far from a mother's arms. The post was accompanied by a picture of me at age 9, eating birthday cake with a missing front tooth. Thankfully my building manager, who is used to this sort of small-town energy, called to warn us. His exact words: "You've got an army of casseroles inbound and at least 2 people who think they're medically certified in prayer. Let me know if you want them turned away at the door or just redirected." I opted for redirecting, and a few friendly elderly neighbors got some nice home-cooked meals for a soldier. Honestly, the best case outcome. But then things swerved hard into Surrealville. My wife's phone pinged late that night. A friend from high school, who, small world, now works as a night nurse at our hospital, had gotten a patient alert flagged by hospital administration because a woman called repeatedly, insisting that she be guaranteed scrubs and official visitor access for the duration of my stay. She gave a family medical password, which, according to my hospital chart, was Mom's Love 2024, not something any of us established. Security flagged it, because she called every 4 hours, escalating each time. "He doesn't answer my calls. He's been taken from me by a woman who resents mothers." My wife is now on a first-name basis with the charge nurse, who's actually got a sense of humor about the whole thing. She calls her the Momtrix. The day before surgery, the tide finally turned as my grandma hosted what is now known in the family group chat as the intervention potluck. Grandma, both sisters, my dad's friend, the Watergun guy, and my mom's only semi-sane cousin Cheryl all convened at Grandma's. My mother was allegedly invited for tea but lured in by the promise of Grandma's lemon pound cake. My sisters recorded the whole thing for posterity. At first, my mom protested: "You're siding with outsiders. He'll never get proper care if left to that girl and her dogs. No one knows a son's pain like his mother." But eventually, with my grandma laying down the verbal steel, If you loved him, you'd step back, not break in, and my sister's tag teaming with teenage bluntness. You're embarrassing yourself, get a hobby. My mother actually listened. For about 30 seconds. This is when my cousin Cheryl, who I haven't seen since I was 14, and who once got banned from a county fair for fist fighting over funnel cake, stared down my mom and said, "Listen up. It's not the 80s, and he's not your purse dog. You need a therapist, not Facebook friends." My mother, back against the wall, broke down crying, but there was sort of a realness to it this time, not just performance. She admitted she felt emptied out with my sisters getting older, me out of reach, and no new purpose to obsess over. Grandma is now gently, and firmly, pushing her toward the counseling she's always refused. Meanwhile, surgery day arrived. A bit anticlimactic, honestly. The procedure went well, and they let my wife camp out in the room, dogs at home with a friend, security on alert. Someone did try to drop off a warm quiche and church pamphlets, which the nurse accepted with a grateful nod, assured her I was well protected by many guardian women, and whisked away to the staff room. My mom did not show, nor did she call. Instead, she sent a message via my grandma. Not a guilt trip this time. Just, I want what's best for you, and I know that isn't me right now. I hope you recover quickly. Love, Mom. As for the days since? Peaceful. The lasagna finally spoiled, sad, but poetic. My sisters have started a running tally of days since the last maternal incursion, currently at 6. If we get to 10, they're ordering a cake. Grandma is keeping my mom busy with a church knitting group and counseling appointments. The internet seems to have moved on from our family melodrama. My exes have stopped receiving cryptic messages. The apartment feels calmer, even with me hobbling around on crutches. For the first time in forever, I'm genuinely optimistic. My wife and I are more solid than ever and more determined to keep loving each other loudly, without shame or apology. We've planned a quiet road trip for when my knee's better, dogs included, and, crucially, with everyone's phones on Do Not Disturb. TLDR? My mom is still my mom, messy, chaotic, a little lost. But for the moment, she's pointed elsewhere, and most critically, my boundaries stood firm even after her hardest pushes. Family's complicated. But I think, for once, we might be learning that complicated doesn't have to mean chaos.